Yo, what is up, Cup Check audience? We're here starting off on the PowerPoint presentation called Julio Rodriguez, the next big thing. I'm here with my co-host, Zach Crutchfield, and we were kind of inspired to make this video today just because the more we looked at the whole Jesse Winker Suarez trade to the Mariners, we realized that this actually might affect Julio Rodriguez and his timetable to join the MLB.
Yeah, Julio, he's a guy I love. He's on my fantasy team in our league. I've been holding him now for a year, and it's interesting to wonder how good he'll be when he'll come up. So let's just get into it.
Yeah, let's do that. So over here on the first slide, just kind of highlighting some of the key things. Prospect Insider comped him as Jim Rice, and when I brought that up, Zach thought that was pretty funny. I think it's a decent comp. I mean, Jim Rice is a Hall of Famer, so no disrespect to Julio there. Probably a lot of similar scouting grades and kind of just attributes as well. Julio Rodriguez with a 60 grade hit tool, a 65 power tool, 50 run, which is the one thing people are kind of like questioning how many bags is he really going to steal, and just overall 65 grade, which is a pretty solid scouting grade.
All right, taking a look at the baseball reference. So all the stats in the minors so far. Dawson, the first thing I look at right here is how much the batting average has improved. We looked 2021 in the minors. Dude had a 347 batting average and 362 in AA with a pretty good sample size. It's pretty silly numbers. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's been the most impressive thing about Rodriguez so far. It's just his overall hit tool. The guy's simply put, just as a hitter, he's a good hitter, and he doesn't really strike out a whole bunch. And 43 walks in 74 games is pretty awesome. Another big thing is that people have been like doubting his speed. He's still 21 bags while only getting thrown out 5 times. So that means he's a pretty solid base runner. He might not have like the fastest 60 time in the world, but he's getting good jumps if he's able to steal 21 bags. And that's something that would be huge in fantasy and even just overall for his value as a player.
Yeah, looking at the home runs, 13 home runs in 74 games. It's pretty impressive. We're wondering if that's going to develop more. Power usually does develop with age. But he was even hitting, you look, 12 home runs when he was 18 years old, even though that's only in single A. Very impressive from a young age. He has a lot of power. Okay, moving on to the Olympics. This is kind of a fun chapter. In the middle of last year, Julio stepped away from the minors to compete for his home country of the Dominican Republic. 417 batting average with a 1.069 OPS. So crazy numbers there. Only thing he was lacking were the extra base hits, only 3 extra base hits. But Dawson, what do you think about him going to the Olympics?
Yeah, I mean, you got to love when a player is willing to kind of step away from his season, go compete for his home country. Julio has a pretty large personality, so just getting to go compete on one of the biggest stages that baseball can provide is pretty awesome. I'm sure he wasn't too happy about the bronze medal, but I'm pretty happy with those numbers. I mean, he just continued to produce. That's the whole thing about this guy is he's continued to produce and hit at every single level that he's been at.
Yep, I agree. So this is one of the things that inspired this video is just the moves the Mariners have made. We realized the outfield's kind of full right now. Fangraphs has the starters as Haniger, Kelenic, and Winker, and you still got the Rookie of the Year, Kyle Lewis, and Taylor Trammell hanging around there too. So not a whole lot of room for Julio to slide in, which is why we're kind of thinking he might not be up till 2023. And we'll actually put in right now a video of the fired Kevin Mather, former CEO, talking about Julio's timetable.
It's a year behind Kelenic. He will probably be here in, everybody says 2021. He won't be here till 2022 or 2023.
All right, now that we're back, Dawson, what you thinking about the Mariners outfield right now?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what inspired the video. Heading into this year, I wasn't expecting Winker and Suarez to be Mariners, which, as like a part-time Mariner fan, I'm pretty hyped about. Even though I really want to see Julio, I think Winker is going to provide a lot to the lineup. But the big question for me is my original thought process on this year was they were going to run out Kalanick, Lewis, and Trammell and kind of just let Lewis and Trammell get their trade stock up and eventually ship them out. So now it's just going to be a question to see who their DH is really going to be. And that's the only reason that I kind of think there's a chance to see Julio this year, because they could DH Winker. But it's definitely a crowded situation, and it's going to hurt his timetable in terms of like being up quickly.
Yeah, and we know the Mariners are ready to compete. So whatever gets them to the playoffs, that's what they're going to want to put out there. So if Julio's performing in the minors, that'll help him get the call for sure. But probably won't see him in April or May, maybe a bit later though.
Yeah, but the tough thing is that if they think that they can make it to the playoffs, or at least look like they're trying to make the playoffs, while not starting Julio's timetable, the Mariners will probably do it. So over here on the platoon split slide, we see Julio versus lefties and righties. Like I said earlier in the video, the theme is he hits wherever. The only thing that doesn't look good on the slide is the 211 average versus lefties, but that was only 19 at bats, so that's not really a good sample size. We see 137 at bats and 98 at bats versus righties across both levels of the minors. 365 and 347, just phenomenal. He's clearly playing above his competition level, and then also hitting 351 against lefties in a slightly larger sample size. So Julio can really just hit, and it doesn't really matter what hand the pitcher is using while throwing.
Yeah, as a righty, you're really just worried about his production against right-handed pitchers, because he'll figure out lefties, and obviously he's getting the job done against both. So
yeah, but another thing to note here, this is also probably based on the sample size. The 3 home runs and 37 at bats versus lefties. I'm no mathematician, but I think that beats out the 5 home runs against 98 at bats. So probably more power against left-hand pitching, but good to see that he has some power regardless of who's throwing. So over here, we just have a little bit of a spray chart from Baseball Savant. There's not a whole lot on Baseball Savant about Julio so far, just because he hasn't played in the MLB. But we do know one of the things that's really raised Julio's stock is his exit velocities. Scouts rave about this guy. He posts triple-digit exit velos all the time. He really hits the ball hard, and showing the spray chart, he really pulls the majority of his homers. But as far as singles, he can really hit the ball all over the field. He's not somebody that's going to be beaten by the shift, even though that might now be banned in the MLB. So
yeah, I think that's the main thing you're worried about, is how he'll be affected by the shift if it's not banned, and it shouldn't be too much of a problem.
Moving on to my personal favorite slide, we have the hype factor. So one of the things, I spend a lot of my time looking at sports cards and investing in players, and Julio Rodriguez has some of the biggest hype I've seen in the hobby ever. So Julio is going to be ranked number 1 here pretty soon. And right now, it's pretty tough to find Julio Rodriguez baseball cards for sale, just because people are hoarding them, and people are asking absurd prices to even get your hands on a Julio. It's going to run you just about $2,000 for his PSA 10 base auto. So it's just like putting that in perspective. That's about half of Acuna's value. And right now you can get a Mookie Betts, who's already pretty much an established Hall of Famer, for the same price as Julio. So that just shows like how good people think he's going to be. And another quick one to add in, Wander Franco's cards go for about $3,000 in the PSA 10 as well. So investors are already putting him in that tier with Franco. And as soon as Julio hits the league, you could expect those numbers to probably be close to Franco's as well, just like if the hype continues.
Yeah, and you're the expert on the cards, but looking at the number 1 ranked prospect thing, right now the only person ahead of him is Rutschman on MLB's rankings. Bobby Witt they have right behind him, but he should be up probably by opening day. So with Rutschman, Witt, and probably Torkelson being in the show before Julio, that should definitely put Julio as number 1. So the hype will be real.
Yeah, and my hot take, I don't think that they'll do it, but I could see them kind of hyping up Volpe a little more, and maybe, if Volpe comes out really hot next year, being a Yankee and with everything that entails, he might be able to challenge Julio for that number one spot. But if Julio is going to be in the minors all 2022, there's no reason he won't be the number one ranked prospect. He's just hands down better than who's around him right now. But yeah, so that's going to do it for our video today. We were really hyped to talk about Julio, just a really exciting young player who we know will have a pretty big impact on the league at some point. And sadly, with all the transactions the Mariners have been doing, it doesn't look like we'll be seeing Julio as fast as we hoped. But it'll be interesting to see what he does in the spring training. Maybe he can force their hand in some way.
Yeah, hopefully this helped with where you're going to draft Julio in a keeper league. Dude's got a lot of talent. We'll see where it takes him.